you probably recognize this face. And you may even be sick of seeing it, or it might even fill you with a profound indifference, an exhaustion deeper than boredom. But whatever your personal opinion, it goes without saying that he is arguably the most important figure in modern history. Yet despite his monumental impact, Jake Paul's scholars remain divided on an essential question. Is he a benevolent force, a malicious one, or in a sense, chaotic neutral? While some, he himself included, characterized JP as a sort of messianic figure, opinion generally tends towards the negative. Recent scholars of Paul have even characterized him as a sociopath, but it should be noted that this term has specific meaning in Paul research, just like bread and wine have in Christianity, that has nothing to do with clinical psychology, psychiatry, or any science in general. Anyways, those viewing him positively, on the other hand, maintain he's a far cry from any sort of sociopath, but just a harmless narcissistic clown taking money from gullible children. The truth, all the while, remains undiscovered. That is, until now, I've reason to believe that almost everything we think we know about Jake Paul is fabrication. The real story behind the man, the myth, the moron has for the longest time evaded us. So in this first installment of a planned 100-part documentary, I will attempt to shine a light into the abyss. Now, take one last look at the Jake Paul you think you know, a supposedly 21-year-old lad from Cleveland, Ohio. Brown eyes, dirty blonde hair, astrological sign Capricorn, height 1.8 meters. Look at him and wave him goodbye. On the 24th of December in the year 1981, a meteor crashed down from the heavens and into a field of pumpkins in Mesilla Valley, New Mexico. Then, the next day, in the early hours of Christmas morning, a distraught farmer inspected the debris covering his ruined vegetable patch and found two slimy forms amid the smoldering rock. They were about as large as a hand and had primitive, vaguely humanoid features. They were tirelessly writhing and seemed alive, but wholly without intelligence. Mortified, he brought them to the local pastor and asked for a consultation. The old man of the church advised him to smother the strange creatures and say the Lord's Prayer, but the farmer couldn't bring himself to do so. Instead, in desperation, he stuffed the impish, goblin-like creatures into a pickle jar and sent them to Harvard Medical School. A week later, a young plastic surgeon happened to conveniently receive the package. This is his face. Are you starting to understand? Are you starting to glimpse the extent of the horror? This man would later assume the identity of Greg Paul, father to Jake and Logan Paul. Fully committing to the role of an embarrassing buffoon to protect his vile secret, he managed to fool almost everyone. The effort and dedication required to sustain his moronic facade for so many years is almost inconceivable to the normal man.
Okay, folks.
Anyways, back in 1981, young Greg proceeded to study the little space goblins that had fallen into his hands with scientific zest. He didn't know how to communicate with them, though, and failed to understand where they had come from and why. He worked tirelessly for almost 30 years. Yes, 30 years. Without any breakthrough. Then, one day, when things seemed most hopeless, the bodies of two brothers arrived at the morgue of the hospital he worked at now, and with them also arrived Greg's most devious idea. The names of these dead brothers were Jacques and Laszlo Paul. In the dark of the night, like a greedy vampire, Greg entered the morgue unseen and stole their corpses. At this point, what happened next must be fairly obvious to you. Using the state-of-the-art technology Greg had worked on perfecting for so many years, he transferred the tiny goblin beings into the head cavities of the poor dead Jacques and Laszlo. Imagine it like a mixture of this scene in Men in Black and this one in Get Out, a fairly recent blockbuster hit horror movie. Only real. When the extraterrestrial gobloids had adapted to their human host bodies, he could finally ask them why they were here and what their goal was. Drooling They answered that they wanted nothing more than to become, quote, real human boys, and that the only way to accomplish this was to gather likes and views on social media. What a parable for the plights and dangers of the modern age. So this is the truth. Tune in next time for part 2 of this projected 100-part documentary. And thanks for watching.